students, welcome back. This is Torres, Elbow Bump. How are you? Are you doing okay? How's your family? Are they okay? Remember, if there's anything I can do for you, please shoot me an email and I am happy to try to help in some way. So lucky you get to hear my voice for another lecture. But the best part is we're going to continue to be putting everything together and talking about probabilities under the curve. Yay! So the last time we met up, we started to use raw data, use StatCrunch in order to start solving some problems. Let's review some of the fundamentals. Again, if I'm harping on this, it's because it's important to me and it's going to be sufficiently important to me to put it on exams to see how well you understand what I find is most important in this course. So let's see what we're talking about. Before we get too much into this, the last video that I put up, I did not include a quiz to go with that on Blackboard. Instead, you were supposed to go on and register for Pearson to get your free access. You also have instructions on Blackboard on how to sign up for my Stats Lab, which comes with it comes with StatCrunch as part of the service. Let's quickly review what we've been talking about for the last few days. First, in order to apply the proportions of the empirical rule, which is the approximate distribution of 68% of the values will exist within one standard deviation before and after the mean, 95% of the values will exist within two standard deviations before and after the mean, approximately 99% of all values will exist within 3 standard deviations before and after the mean. The distribution has to be normal. You can assume normality if there is numerical and visual evidence that the distribution is within an acceptable range. You can check for normality numerically. You want to compare the mean relative to the median, meaning that the mean and the median should be approximately the same and then the center of the mode. The skewness statistic will describe how much the distribution will sway from left to right. If you have a long tail to the left, it would suggest that there is an outlier on the low end of the data to the left of the data and will cause that long left tail. Another way of saying that the data is left skewed is to say that it's negatively skewed. The same would happen if you have an outlier that is much greater than the majority of the data. It's going to create a long right tail and create a right skew. Another way of saying right skew is positively skewed. In order for the distribution of the data to be assumed normal, you must have a skewness statistic of between -1 and +1. The next statistic that you need to look at is the kurtosis statistic. The kurtosis statistic will tell you how much the data is fluctuating in sort of like an up and down manner. If the data is too pointed, the mode is too pointed, you're looking at a leptokurtotic curve, and that is excessively positive. Think of it as the y-axis. The mode is going up the y-axis, so it's becoming more positive. If the mode starts to go down the y-axis and kind of spread out into the tails, then you're starting to get a negative kurtosis, and that's called platykurtotic. So it's kind of starting to squash down, and that would be extreme if you pass -3. So the kurtosis statistic that would be appropriate for normality to continue to be assumed is between -3 and +3. Anything outside of that range would not make the data suitable for statistical use. You can check the normality visually. So you can look at the histogram. You want to see that it's unimodal, that the histogram is symmetrical, the tails are approximately equal length. Similarly, the box plot has the median at approximately the center of the interquartile range, or the box, also called the H-spread. The whiskers are approximately the same length. And the QQ plot, the raw data fits close to the theoretical raw score line. But it is okay for there to be some dispersion at the ends. If there's a spray of the data either at the very low end or the very high end of the theoretical line, then that's fine. Once you can assume normality, then you can apply the empirical rule. Okay, you can start to calculate z-scores using the z-score formula. You can calculate raw scores, which is just really restructuring or rearranging the z-score formula in terms of x, and be able to calculate raw scores. If you wanted to find proportions or areas under the normal curve, you can use the anchor z-scores to make very rough approximations of the curve. If you wanted more precise measurements, you need to use technology or z-tables, which we don't use in this class, in order to find those more precise measurements. So we're going to go ahead and work on example 6. This is the same kind of thing that we were doing in the last video, the part 2 of probabilities under the normal curve. And this time again, we're going to go from beginning to end. So we're going to open up sample data, check for normality, both numerically and visually, and start answering some of these questions. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and get out of this. Go ahead and open my sample data. I'm going to grab the question here, copy, and go ahead and put it into the Ziteboard, and it's right here. Remember, Ziteboard information. The link to Ziteboard is in the description box. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open this with Google Sheets. And I have the information about how many days these employees were on staff at the school. So I'm going to go ahead and take the data and go ahead and put it into StatCrunch. I've got StatCrunch open already. And if I click, remember, if you click right here where it says var1, and just go ahead and hit Control V, or if you have a Mac, it would be Command V. You can go ahead and paste everything in there very easily. And the title, days, would be in the section for the name. Okay, so you have all the information. Let's go ahead and start running the normality information through StatCrunch. Let's go ahead and look at the numerical stuff first. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Summary Stats, Columns, click on Days. I really like to pick the following things. I like to use mean, or the count, which is n, mean, standard deviation, median. I like all the stuff that goes with the interquartile range. And I will make a list if you'd like, and also make a PDF of it and link it down below. I like skewness kurtosis mode, and I go ahead and hit compute, and then it has all my information. Let's see what I've got. Well, looks like the school has 102 employees. The mean of days that they've been employed is 626 days. Standard deviation is 87 days. And the median is 660. That's quite a bit of a difference, but not too bad. Let's look at the skewness. Skewness is negative 0.9, so it's almost at -1, but it's not, so it's okay. Kurtosis looks great. It's within the acceptable range of -3 and +3. So numerically, this looks good. This is looking pretty good. Here we also have the mode is 662, and the median is right there. This is a little bit to the left. This is less than the median, so the mean is less than the median, which would suggest that there is a negative skew, and that jives right around here. So this is good. It's skewed, it's pretty skewed, but it's not skewed to the point where we can't use this. So we scored. Okay, next thing, histogram. Let's do a histogram. Days, mean and median. I love to put the normal distribution overlay and go ahead and hit compute. All right, so here we can see why there's a little bit of a left skew. There's a lot of data over here and not as much balancing it out. But for the most part, we still have a normal shape curve right here. It looks good. Mean and the median are a little bit far away, but we've already determined that it's still okay. Looking good. Next thing, box plot. Now, I usually do numbers, histogram, box plot, QQ plot, but you really can do them in any order that you want. It's not important as long as they all get checked. It doesn't really matter. All right, let's see. All right, we're still seeing a negative skew here, which jives with everything that we've seen so far. The median, remember median is red, so that's off center of the box. Not perfect. The left whisker is a lot longer than the right whisker, but you know, the skewness value still says it's okay. Finally, we're going to look at the QQ plot. So we're going to go graph, QQ plot, days, compute. All right. So you can see here, right in through here, we've got a little bit of deviation. Here we've got a little bit below and a little bit above, so it seems to kind of equals out. We've got a lot of dispersion over here and a lot of dispersion over here. Interesting, we've got a lot of more dispersion up here, but we didn't have any outliers. But again, I guess it's good enough. So this is a prime example of how the data doesn't have to be perfectly normal. It just has to be good enough. It has to be good enough for us to have some reasonable belief that although the data isn't perfectly normal, it's sufficiently normal for these percentages or proportions of the curve to actually be able to be applied. Okay, so let's go, and with this information, here we've got the information. The mean is 626.04, and the standard deviation is 87.74. And I'm going to go ahead and write that down. Okay, so now that we have the data, let's go ahead and draw this out and give myself some way of working with this. So I'm going to kind of get myself all nice and neat here, and start drawing my bell curve. So let's see how I do today. Yeah. Got kind of crazy with that one, didn't I? Okay. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, -3. This is an ugly 3. Let me fix that a little bit. That looks like -3. Let me fix that. Three. Okay. So let's see. It says that the mean that we had, I'm going to write this up here. The mean, according to our output on StatCrunch, the mean was 626.039. And I'm going to go ahead and round it. You know, I'm just going to round it to wholes. I'm just going to say it's 626. And the standard deviation was 88. And I'm just rounding this to whole numbers just to, you know, just to keep things a little bit neater. Remember, what's happening when I'm rounding? I'm introducing error. So if this were, you know, an actual study, I wouldn't be rounding until like maybe the very end. But to keep things simple and just so I have a little bit more room to work with here, I'm going to go ahead and keep this like that. Okay, so let me go in and I'm going to go ahead and start filling in the rest of this. I'm going to go ahead, these were my z-scores that I just had put in there. So I'm going to go ahead and write my raw scores underneath. This is 626. This distance is 88. And let me get my calculator and we'll start calculating some of this stuff out. So here's my calculator. I'm going to go ahead and clear it. Clear, clear, clear. Put it over here. I've got 626 plus 88 equals 714. Now again, this is a great time for you to stop my video, add these up, going towards the right, subtract them going to the left, and see if you got the same thing as me. So next thing, we're going to add 88 again. 88 equals, I got 802. So I'm going to go ahead and go here, 802. I'm going to add 88 again. 890. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to the center and subtract. Clear, 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 clear. See why it's important? 626 minus 88 equals 538. Minus 88 equals 450. And minus 88 one more time. 362. Okay, so I've got my corresponding raw scores. I'm all set up. What did I do? Let's just quickly review this. Number one, I checked for normality. After I was sure it was normal, I grabbed my mean and my standard deviation and I started drawing out my model. Okay, now I have an idea of what's happening here. So now it says, if the state will pay for the employees that worked at the top 35 percentile, what is the least number of days those people would have worked? Those people have worked. The least number of those people have worked. Okay, so I want, where's my little thingy here? 35. Well, I know that I want the top 35. So I'm looking for a number that separates the bottom 65 from the top 35. Well, let's just go from the top over here. You can do this either way. So I'm going to just go from the top and kind of see where would 35% be if I started over here. So here's 0.5% plus 2%, so that's 2.5%, plus 13.5%. And then if I added this last little standard deviation, I would be at 50%. And I don't want that. I want 35%. So top 35% is going to be here. And it says, if the state will pay for employees that have worked at the top 35 percentile, what is the least number of days those people have worked? So they had to have worked at least a certain amount of days, okay? And that is going to be approximately about here. What this says is that the state is going to pay for people that have worked at least this number of days, whatever number of days in through here. It could be, it's some number, we don't know the number, but we're going to figure it out, between 626 and 714. And that number is the boundary that separates the people that have this 35% of people that have worked the longest. Okay, so they've worked at least some number of days. All right, so let's go into StatCrunch. So we're going to go into StatCrunch. We have our summary statistics already, and we can go to Stat, Calculators, and then you're going to go all the way to Normal. Okay, and then we're going to put in the data that we need. We've already got the summary statistics here. Remember, we rounded to whole numbers just to keep things simple. 626 is our mean. Standard deviation is 88. Now, right here it says we want people that worked more than 35% of that time. The greatest 35% of that time. And this photo right here looks very similar. This diagram looks very, very similar to my diagram. See how I've colored? And I'll try to color this in a little bit better. I mean, I'm trying, people. I'm trying. All right. You know, it was so much easier to color when I was in kindergarten. Okay, so this is showing the top 35%, and the raw score that corresponds to that is 659.9, or approximately 660. So I'm going to go here, and I can say that the raw score that corresponds with the top 35% is 660. Okay, so anybody that works 660 days for this school will be able to keep their job. Well, the state will pay for them to keep their job. Now, that accounts for these people right here. The school still has to make some decisions. They can't keep everybody. So they've decided that they can keep people that have worked more than 575 days. So I'm going to go ahead and put this. But if you've worked less than 575 days, then unfortunately you won't be able to stay on. So what is the number, or what is the proportion that, what percentile of employees will be laid off? So basically we're saying this is the cut score to keep your job at all. So this is going to be 575 days. If you work more than 575 days, either the state will pay for you to be able to stay, or the school will be able to pay for you. But anybody less, and I hate to put this in red, but all these people down here, there's just no money for the school to be able to pay to keep their jobs. Okay, so if anybody's worked less than 575, unfortunately, they're going to have to apply for unemployment, which is terrible. But hopefully the school will be able to hire them back on once everything gets back to normal, and we'll just keep them in our thoughts. Okay, so I'm going to close this out and open it again because, you know, I just like to be really careful. So go to calculators, go down to normal, and we're going to put in the same information. The mean is going to be 626. Standard deviation is going to be 88. Okay. If you're asked, like, where's she getting this from? I'm getting this from here. Okay. And we're going to look for the proportion of people less than 575. Compute. So you notice, what is the proportion if X is less than or equal to 575? And it's 28%. So the bottom 28% of employees will not be able to stay on. So this proportion right here is, if X is less than 575, that comes out to, what was it, 28 something, 28.11. So it's going to be 0.2811, or approximately 28.1% of the employees at the school will not be able to keep their job. Okay, so let's look at example 7. Example 7 says Big Pharma Pharmaceuticals received their latest sales figures for the last quarter. It has a sample data. And they want to know if the company will pay a $10,000 bonus to the representatives that have the top 5% of sales in the company. What is the least amount of sales a representative will have to sell to earn the bonus for the last quarter? The next question says, this is a cutthroat company. They always fire the representatives that sell an amount that is in the bottom 10% of sales. What is the cut score for the last quarter to keep or lose the sales rep position? Okay, so let's see. We are here. We're going to go ahead, and I think I already paste this into Ziteboard. Yes, I did. Here is the information. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and open up the sample data. Here's the pharmaceutical sales. And if you notice, it's got the order number, the country where the item was sold, the sales representative, and the gross sales. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take all this information and then copy it, and we're going to go ahead and put it into StatCrunch. And I can open StatCrunch. I'm going to go ahead and paste it into here. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and start testing normality. So I'm going to go to Stats, Summary Stats, go to Columns. I'm going to do the Summary Stats on gross sales. And I'm going to select the count, the mean, the standard deviation. Scroll down a little bit. Median range, min, max. Q1, Q3, IQR. Skewness, kurtosis, mode, compute. Okay. All right, so my mean looks like it's 182,000. The median is 37,000, so that's really different. It's got multiple modes. Okay, the skewness is 1.67. That's bad. The skewness is one of the, this figure right here, the skewness number is one of the most important ones. If that's looking that bad from the beginning, this isn't looking really good. Okay, kurtosis is 2.54. That's within normal limits. Okay, well, let's just see what happens when we graph it. I'm not feeling good about this. Gross sales. Overlay distribution is normal. Mean, median. Pop that in there. Woo! Look at this thing. I would have thought it would have been much more kurtosis. Mean and the median are pretty far off. It's got a lot of data over here and not a whole lot of data over here. So this is also kind of confirming that there is a large positive skew. The data is not distributed normally. Okay, let's go to the next one. The next one is the graph of the box plot. Gross sales. Let's do this horizontally. Mean, median, compute. Look at all these outliers. Okay, see, this is all showing that the data is not normal. The median is supposed to be in the center of the box, and it's not in the center of the box. It's way off to the left. So this is not looking promising whatsoever. Let's see what the QQ plot looks like. Gross sales. I'm almost afraid to look. All right, so this thing is really messed up too. Look. The only places that it's really hugging the line is like right there and right there. It's not, it doesn't have, this is not looking promising at all. So there is, at this point, there's no evidence that this data can be used, and it's not suitable for statistical use. So can't use it. It's actually, if for those of you who are business majors, it's not uncommon for money data to be skewed. It's actually quite common for it to happen. All right, so let's go back to here. Well, the question was, these are the two questions that cannot be answered because we don't know how this data is distributed. We're going to have to apply another model, or we're going to have to sort of mess with the data in order to make it normal. And that would be what we're going to talk about in our next lesson. Our next lesson is, what do you do if you have non-normal data, and how can you apply the central limit theorem to fix that data and make it acceptable? So what's the big idea? Today's big idea is the same one that we've been talking about. The big idea is that you absolutely need to check the distribution of your data. You're looking for normal data. If you don't have normal data, none of these ideas, none of these probabilities that we've been talking about with the empirical rule and busting it up using the normal curve proportions can be applied. Also, the area under the normal curve can be divided into an infinite number of sections. In order to calculate these sections or find corresponding raw scores, you're going to need to use technology to find these probabilities. So that's it for today. With that said, don't forget to check your emails, check Blackboard, do your homework, and subscribe to this channel. Even better, hit that notification bell so you know when there is a new video for this course. This is your teacher, Taurus, saying stay safe, and I will be waiting to give you a virtual elbow bump in the next video. Ciao!